welcome to Community Connections. I'm Marnie Yu, your host, and glad you're joining us. And it's the 1st of April. We hope spring has really sprung this month, although it's a little windy out there. But I think that's typical for this area during the early parts of spring. But hopefully the flowers are blooming and your allergies stay at bay. We got a great show for you today. And my first guest is one of my favorite people in all the world. That's Dr. Craig Ralston. He's the Dean of the Performing Arts Department at Yavapai College. And he's directing Jane Eyre, but I worked with him had so much fun working on Hello, Dolly, and It's a Wonderful Life with you. So welcome, Dr. Ralston.
Good to see you, Marnie.
Or boss, as we call you.
And it was such a thrill having you on our last couple of productions.
So much fun.
And Dolly was just off the charts.
Well, you do a show, you throw everything behind it, you do
Yes.
a wonderful production. It closes,
Yes.
you take a little breather, and then you
jump into the next one.
The next one, because
Exactly.
this is the spring show. We're talking about
Correct.
Jane Eyre, the musical. And I'm saying that right, Jane Eyre.
Yes.
Eyre.
You said it correct.
Eyre, the
Correctly.
musical,
Yes.
coming up in, well, this month. So we're pretty
Correct.
excited.
We open a week from Friday, so 10 days from now, we will be opening Jane Eyre. You know, the thing, Marnie, is Jane Eyre is a beautiful, beautiful score. You know, a lot of people have said, Jane Eyre, well, you know, that's classical literature. How could you turn that into a musical?
Right.
And honestly, back in the late 90s, because it showed on Broadway in 2000, they wrote just a gorgeous score. The music is powerful, it's exciting, and people just don't know it. So I think what's happened is our folks out there are going, well, it sounds like a kind of one of those romance dramas. It's real dark. It is dark in some places, but there's actually some comedic elements, and the songs are just outstanding. I mean, honestly, it is one of the nicest scores once you hear the music. So I've been thrilled to direct it. We have a very talented cast. Most of them were in Hello, Dolly. But our younger actors are doing Jane and Rochester, and they're doing such a great job. And we have a super supporting cast, and you know, all those theatrical elements with the lighting and the fog and the mist on the moors. But it's powerful. It is a powerful story.
And what's nice about it is maybe it's not mainstream that you know a lot about, but you're going to see something that's new and fresh, and it's got your spin on it that's going to be fantastic. We do have a short video we're going to put on right now that came from Yavapai College in the Performing Arts Department. It is absolutely beautiful and tells you a little bit about the story and takes you a little bit on the journey, and then we'll be right back. So let's play that video. And what you've seen is just a little bit of behind the scenes of what goes on in making a musical. And so you just got a little secret glimpse of the cast at work during a rehearsal. And once costumes and sets and everything, the whole thing changes. But it gets you, now you need to see it to see what you saw looks like once it's on stage.
Exactly. The theme is so important, Marnie. We have termed it one woman's fight for freedom and fulfillment on her own terms. And so it's that real struggle for Jane in that time period, which, you know, we still have struggles within our society today, for that breaking the mold of what was expected of a woman. She wanted to be treated with respect. She wanted to have her independence and to make choices for herself. And that's so powerful even today, where we have, you know, different sectors of society, where we're from different backgrounds, different races, different countries. And yet we all want that freedom to choose and to govern our own lives. And so it's a really powerful theme, and it's really been thrilling to work, especially with our actresses who have to portray that's inner strength that Jane has, but how she's really on that journey for what she truly desires,
Yeah.
which is to be respected and ultimately to get the love of her life.
Now, you've made an opportunity for a lot of actors to be in this production. You've had some of the roles double cast.
Correct.
So, I mean, you
Correct.
might see it 2 different times, 2 different nights, and
Yes.
have 2 different Janes and Rochesters,
That is
or some of the
correct.
cast members. So that's kind of always
Exactly.
fun to give everybody a chance.
Yeah, Marnie, because we have such a strong community of folks who are dedicated to the arts, like yourself,
Yes.
I hate to say we're only going to cast 16. So instead we cast closer to 30. Just like with Dolly, it could have been done with about 28. We had over 50 for
Yeah,
Dolly.
we did.
And that's because, we have such great talent. And that's what thrills me about
Right.
Prescott Valley, Yavapai County, is that we really have people who have the talent to do wonderful things in the arts. And so giving them that opportunity to me is so
Yeah.
important. Not to say, well, we're only going to choose just the best.
Right.
We're going to let others grow and learn and be a part of it as well.
And you see it as you work with them, too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jane Eyre the
Absolutely.
Musical opens on April the 14th, ycpac.com. You can get tickets. Pick any night, your seats, and again, it's in the Jim and Linda Lee Performing Arts Center at Yavapai College.
Correct.
And one of the other things we want to share is there's a few more shows coming up for the season in the Jim and Linda Lee Performing Arts Center. Again, Jane Eyre coming up, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, and Croce Plays Croce, so you can get tickets again for those. And one last
Yes.
exciting news has
Yes.
been announced for the fall, the musical.
Correct. Singing in the Rain, which is such an iconic movie, but just a delightful musical. One of the best dancing musicals. And so April 19th, which is coming up.
Yes.
It's a week from Wednesday, April 19th. We will be having auditions. So if you'd like to be a part of Singing in the Rain, please come out April 19th. And the show will go up later in the fall. It'll be a November show. And we hope that if you're not part of it, that you at least come and support us and enjoy one of the best musicals. You'll have to be careful in the first few rows to wear
yes,
a
if you
raincoat because
remember.
there will be water, it will be raining.
We remember that classic scene with
Yes,
Gene Kelly and Singing in the Rain.
exactly,
So again, I think you just call the college then to get an audition packet?
Correct.
To make a
correct.
schedule appointment time?
You're right, the Performing Arts Department, yep.
Okay, and we can
Give
get
us a
that through
call.
you at the chamber.
Yes.
So lots of things going on, but meanwhile, Jane Eyre opening. I'm excited to see it. I've got my tickets for the 21st. So anybody who wants to join me on April the 21st, come on out and see Jane Eyre the Musical.
Please.
And wonderful. And that video is just amazing. It's a beautiful cast.
Yes, they are. They've worked hard and you will not be disappointed. Please come and see us on stage for Jane Eyre.
Dr. Craig Ralston, thank you so much.
Thank you,
We're a short
Marnie.
break and we'll be right back here on Community Connections.
How prepared is your family if a wildfire shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or an earthquake? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza. Yes.
Make a plan today.
And welcome back to Community Connections. My next guest is Lance Lenore, Lenore Aircraft, and we're glad to have you back on the show. It's been several years since we've talked, Lance.
Oh yes, Barney. It's been a couple years, and there's been a lot of changes at Lenore Aircraft. There's still that huge shortage of pilots. That there's a constant demand for people to go into the commercial aviation field. It's a huge shortage. And most knowledgeable people in the industry say it's going to be years getting sorted out, just because it takes so long to make a pilot.
Right, right. So we were talking earlier, and I was asking you about Lenore Aircraft, and actually you teach flying right here in Prescott, the Quad Cities. You can go and actually earn your pilot's license at Lenore Aircraft. And you also, they can come out of it with a commercial pilot's license, the basic.
That is correct. We start in the pilot world with a private pilot license. That's what we call your license to learn. And you move on to other ratings and certificates as you go up, and ultimately you're trying to get to a commercial pilot and an airline transport pilot. And to get to an airline transport pilot, that takes 1,500 hours of flight time in a plane in order to qualify to take the test for that rating. So it's a lot of work, and it's not something that gets done overnight, but we can start you in the process. And kids as young as 16 can get started. You can solo on your 16th birthday. You can test for your private pilot certificate on your 17th.
Oh my goodness.
So you can get started very early. And we've actually had some kids that have literally been flying before they actually have a driver's license.
I was going to ask you, how early do they start, and do you have kids in the program, young people in the program?
We do have young people in the program. A lot of our students are university aged or high school aged, and then we also, in addition to teaching flying, we rent aircraft.
Right.
So if you're a pilot or a rusty pilot, we can get you back to current. And we can rent you an airplane so you can go buzz over to Sedona and take a look at the red rocks from the air, which are, quite honestly, it's one of the most stunning sights in Arizona, as is the canyon. I never tire of flying over those two landmarks in this state.
I always look when I'm flying commercial just to make sure I'm sitting on the window side of the Grand Canyon so I can see it. It's always
you really
just
ought to take a flight in a small plane,
smaller plane
through the canyon. Because you can go through the canyon at 10,000, 11,000 feet, and ground elevation out there is around 8,000, 9,000 feet. So you're only about 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 feet above the rim of the canyon as you're going across. And I've flown over it commercially, and I've flown over it in a small plane, and it is an utterly different experience.
Well, one of the seven wonders of the world right here in Arizona. So pretty exciting to be able to have that in our backyard. Back to the commercial pilots, somebody's interested. The shortage, that's a result of what?
That was the result of a perfect storm when the pandemic hit. Many of the pilots in commercial airlines were aging out right before the pandemic hit. They came out of the military in the Vietnam era. They're roughly my age. I'm 64, so I've got one more year left legally to fly if I wanted to as an airline transport pilot. And then I'm done. So the airlines knew that they had a shortage, and then we had the pandemic happen. Travel stopped, pilots retired, got furloughed. The airline industry ground to a total halt for the better part of a year.
It did.
And then magically the pandemic was over, and travel came back much quicker than anybody expected. Well, all the support industry for the aviation industry suffered as well. There were a lot of flight schools that lost all their instructors, shut down, went out of business during that time. We were very fortunate here in Prescott in that we were actually not really impacted by the pandemic restrictions during 2020 and 2021. It kept us in business. Actually, our 2020 was our best year in business at the time. So we were fortunate. And when everything came back, there were no people. There were no schools with instructor shortage. And many of the people in the large programs are saying this is a 5 or 10 year problem to solve. We're not going to fix travel next year. So there's going to be weird things happening in the travel world over the next year. But one of the things that we've got that will help get people started in flight training is we've got a state-of-the-art virtual training device at Lenore Aircraft out at the Prescott Airport. It uses virtual reality and a virtual instructor to help coach beginning flight students. It's manufactured and designed right here in Prescott, Arizona by TrueCourse Simulations. It's a cutting-edge piece of technology that's in use at the Air Force Academy and Embry-Riddle Daytona Beach. Prescott Embry-Riddle doesn't even have it yet available for their flight students. And we were lucky enough to get one of the units at Lenore Aircraft. And what the Air Force and Embry-Riddle Daytona have seen is that it cuts roughly 30% off the initial training time on your first pilot's license.
So that brings me to that question. How long does it take generally to earn your pilot's license?
That depends on how often you fly. As an old flight instructor, I typically tell students you want to try and fly at least at a bare minimum once a week. 2 to 3 times a week is good and better. And if you can do that, you can usually get through to your first pilot's license in a couple of months.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that we're really pushing our beginning flight students to do is to utilize the virtual reality simulator. They call it an immersive training device. And the neat thing about this is it doesn't cost people per hour to use. It's like buying software. You buy the course, you can come in and fly it and practice with it as much as you need. There's online content that's accessible via your phone, tablet, desktop.
Oh, wow.
So you can really take a lot of the training into your own hands. And we're the only ones in Prescott that has that right now. So it's a really neat piece of hardware.
So exciting. So we got a few minutes here. Let everybody know how they're interested in flying in flight school, obtaining their pilot's license. How would they get a hold of you?
Well, you can get a hold of us on the web at LenoreAircraft.com. That's LEIGHNOR aircraft.com. Or give us a call at 928-499-3080, and we'll be happy to answer your questions, or drop by and visit us at the Prescott Airport. We'll be happy to show you the flight sims. We'll be happy to walk you out to the flight line, let you take a look at aircraft. And
Sounds like a field trip to me.
yes.
Lance Lenore, thank you for joining us on Community Connections.
Thank you, Marnie, for having me.
Have a great day. We'll be right back and we'll more on here.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Do you know how much water you use? By checking your water meter or utility bill, you can find out how many gallons your household uses every month.
And welcome back to Community Connections. My next guest is Larry Goldstein with ERC Specialists, Employee Retention Credit, right, Larry?
Correct.
Okay, I'm just going to turn it over to you and say, what is that all about?
Well, the Employee Retention Credit, known as ERC, or Employee Retention Tax Credit, known as ERTC, was a program set up by the IRS of all people. I know we don't usually say good things about the IRS, but in this case, they're incredible, through the CARES Act because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
And it's for business owners who have W-2 employees. Unfortunately, it's not for self-employed or people with 1099 employees.
Right, right. That'd be contract employees.
Right, right. It must be payroll, it must be W-2 employees.
Mm-hmm.
And this program was for businesses who retained employees, period.
During a specific...
COVID,
Okay.
during COVID times, which the exact times where you can get money on, you can get for up to 6 quarters.
Okay.
The second, third, and fourth quarter in 20, and the first, second, and third quarter in 21.
Okay.
Those are the eligible quarters. So I've had businesses qualify for 1 quarter or all 6 quarters, depending on the business, depending on their scenarios. There's almost...
No, they have to have retained all of their employees?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
They have to have had, really just have to have had employees. In fact, few of the things people don't understand, this is local. I've got local businesses that were unfortunately shut down because of COVID,
Right.
but they retained employees during most of COVID, and I got them
Oh, I
qualified.
see.
I got them qualified for money.
So even though their business was shut down because they didn't lay off their employees, they kept them on the payroll.
As
then
long as they could.
They could
They
qualify,
can qualify
as quarter or all.
for some of those quarters, yes.
Oh, okay.
So that's the misconception people have about it. The most common way that people understand for businesses to get qualified are businesses that just got smoked during COVID, that just got crushed, which unfortunately a lot of businesses it happened to.
Right.
That's called the receipts test. When you do it that way, you're comparing each quarter of 20 and 21, the 6 eligible quarters we spoke about, to the same quarter in 2019. And that's how you qualify for the receipts test. If there was a 50% drop in any of the quarters in 20 compared to the same quarters in 19, you'll qualify. If there was a 20% drop in any of the quarters in 21 compared to that same quarter in 19, you'll qualify. That's the receipts test. So that's where a lot of businesses qualify, like restaurants, for example. Okay? They got crushed. But manufacturing, you can go on and on.
Right, right.
And that's the problem. I like to let people know, don't pre-qualify yourself. If you have W-2 employees and you are around during COVID, please just give me a call and let's talk. The potential amount of money, I've gotten small businesses here in town, a few thousand, up to many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is real money. And it's from the IRS.
And so they're giving, the IRS is part of the CARES Act money that's reinvesting in the business by, you retained your employees, but would you have suffered losses?
Well, that's the one way, is because not necessarily. I'll give you, what I just told you was the receipts test, which obviously those businesses suffered great losses.
Right.
And owners were coming out of their pocket just to keep their employees. So they were doing the right thing.
Right, right.
Okay? But some just couldn't make it. But there's other ways for businesses to qualify that have absolutely nothing to do with revenue. Okay?
Okay.
One of the great ones are people who had the gumption to start a business during COVID, which obviously took a lot of nerve to do that, okay?
Right.
If you started a new business during COVID after February 15th of 2020, just for starting that new business, I can get you money.
Really?
So if you started a business with employees, once again, must have W-2,
W-2 employees.
during those 6 quarters, you have money coming.
Yeah.
Period. Okay? Other ways to qualify are, I've had businesses that thrived during COVID. Okay? Because a lot of businesses
There were
did.
some. There were
they
some,
lucky.
absolutely.
But some that thrived and got crushed we all know about the supply chain issues.
Right.
And if you had supply chain issues due to mandates, whether it's you or your supplier, that affected your business, you can qualify for that, whether you did well or not. Okay? Okay, so you can qualify for that. And with all the ways you can qualify, you only have to qualify for one way. But if any ever possible, we like to make sure people qualify for multiple, because most do.
Okay, I have a question for you. So it's 2023 now.
Right.
And let's say I was a business owner, I had W-2 employees, cleaning service or something, and I managed to keep my employees and work through it. And then let's say something else happened in the end of 2022 and my business is now closed. Can I go to you and recover from and get that money from those those quarters that I was open and working? Because the reason I'm closed now is something entirely unrelated.
Right. Well, that's a great question, and the answer is yes. But to take it another step, I work with some business brokers and who refer me people, and if you whoever owned the EIN number, the tax ID number, during those 6 quarters,
Right.
can qualify. So there's people who have bought businesses and got it with the EIN and all the debt that comes with it, because they know that they can file for this, and the other person had no idea
Right.
that they had this money coming to them. So whoever owned the EIN during that time, if they shut down, like you said, after those 6 quarters, yes, they can qualify.
You know, I mean, I have like a ton of questions. You know, I have some good points here. I did a little research. I also, have had conversations with businesses. But I think the bottom line, Larry, is they should talk to you. Because we could have a whole lot of scenarios here, and some of them may definitely be get money back or look at it this way. I may look at it my way, and you're going to say, well, if you look at it this way, you have this, and you're entitled to this back. So I think the best thing, somebody needs to talk to you, right?
It's a conversation.
You have something coming up, a special?
Well, I have an event coming up this Thursday in 2 days.
This Thursday, okay.
Yeah, 2 days.
Will you be holding those again?
I will, but this is at Colt Grill downtown at 4 o'clock. It's a combination customer appreciation and ribbon cutting for the other chamber.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, meanwhile, we'll get your contact information up here so we let people know how to get a hold of you, make an appointment. Obviously, they have questions that maybe I'm not asked, and they're probably yelling at their TV now, ask him this, ask him this. And so they can just call you directly.
And I gave my cell number just so people, I am an old school guy, a phone call's the way to go.
Absolutely.
If you want to text me a quick question, fine.
But the best thing is to sit down and meet with you.
Best thing is just a phone call. We'll review all the potential ways to qualify. And again, a lot of them are not based on revenue.
They need to call you. Larry Goldstein, ERC Specialist. Thank you so much for joining us and
Thank you for having
clearing
me.
a lot of those questions up. Thank you for
appreciate it.
joining us here on Community Connections today.